I've always made it known that I didn't want children. And when he came back from the vacation, he wanted a child.
Hi, welcome to the show. As part of this series on the decision about whether to have children, we're joined by Anna, who's here to give us her insight. We're not here to make any particular judgment, simply to chat about the factors which real people just like you take into consideration. Hi Anna, how are you today?
Hi, I'm doing okay. I'm enjoying my day off with my husband.
Good.
Yeah.
Anna, tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I'm recently married as of last year. Made it just in time before the virus made it. But before
Well
it spread
done.
all
Good
over
luck.
the world. Um, and I am currently working from home full time, so I don't see outside very much. But I usually am. I usually don't. I'm not the type of person that enjoys the crowds. I I've always I don't really hang out too much. A lot like I don't go to parties. I never really had a similar lifestyle to folks that were in their 20s. I was different from my peers.
Okay.
I can relate to that. I've said that the virus hasn't really changed my life much. Everyone else is doing what I normally do. So
Absolutely the same. It's funny, as soon as you said that, Anna, I thought, oh, that describes me really well as well. So
yeah, me too.
I've always been described. I'm not sure, Anna, if you're familiar with this expression on your side of the pond, but here I've often been called old before my time. Does that mean anything to you? Yeah, it does.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's me too.
We've found each other perfectly here.
I don't think I fit the stereotype of folks in my generation.
Sure. What age are you, Anna?
I'm 29.
Yeah, you're just a little bit older than me. I'm 28. So
And somewhat younger than I am.
yeah, we're maybe not going to specifics. Anna, we can tell from your accent you're clearly not from Scotland as we are. Where are you from in particular?
I'm from the United States on the East Coast, in the state of Pennsylvania, in the city of Steel, Pittsburgh. Uh,
Sure.
yeah, I live in one of the more in the rest. They call this area the Rust Belt. So there's a lot of aging buildings, a lot of how do I describe it? There's a lot of abandoned steel mills, but a lot of things were revitalized and a lot of our economy turned into healthcare and education over
Yeah.
time.
So we had a similar thing in Britain where it went from kind of manufacturing and things like that to more service-based things. And it's very similar. It'll be a similar thing for that area, I think. Yeah.
So Anna, you said you're 29 and you're recently married. You just before COVID.
Yeah, we made it just in time. I had no idea COVID was, uh, I don't think anyone knew COVID was going to come around that time. I, I thought getting married in 2019 was a bit of an off number, but uh, me and my husband at the time were having a slight disagreement, and a comment came up in the beginning of 2019, and it was like, we're not even married yet, and we had been together. I think that time almost 7 years. So I said, you know what? By the end of this year, we're going to be married.
And you did.
And you did. Well done. Everything went to plan.
You timed that very well, I've got to say. That was well done.
Yeah, it was well done. Under the wire. Yeah.
So Anna, you don't have any kids at present, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And we'll talk more about that and what kind of factors there are in that as well. But I wondered if we could start off maybe by talking a bit about your upbringing. You mentioned yourself being, I'm not sure if introvert's maybe the right word, but certainly not feeling as if you did the same sort of things as your peers. What was your life like growing up?
Growing up, I had trouble making friends. I didn't really get into fights per se, but I had trouble getting close to people that were outside of my family. My brothers and sisters and my cousins were my best friends. Uh, those were the people I was closest to, and they were around the same age. Uh, and I couldn't get that close to people outside of my family. I just had trouble relating to them. Uh, I I'm not sure how to quite describe it. Uh, I mean,
Social engagement can be difficult on any level, to be honest. It takes work and time, and I might seem very open and thinking, but I'm a 10 years ahead of you guys in age, and I still
You
struggle
said
in
it.
social settings and things. Yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks. But I'm the same. I still struggle in social settings. I've got a very good public face, but more close to close relationships and things like that, I struggle. So I can completely relate to what you're saying. And I don't think that's like, have you found that hindrance? Have you found that something that you would like to work on, or
a
how?
lot of it felt like it stemmed from anxiety disorder. I guess it was diagnosed at a young age. Uh, it
How
didn't
young were
help
you?
that, huh?
How young was that diagnosis?
About 8 years old.
Right.
Uh, but I mean, that was the earliest I was able to see a therapist.
Right.
I mean, that's just the diagnosis. It could have been existing earlier than that.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
heard stories that from one time I could walk, I would rather hang around my dad's leg than make eye contact with anybody new
Yeah.
around.
Okay. So it certainly came from a very young age. And you mentioned having siblings as well, Anna. How many siblings do you have?
I have three siblings.
Okay. Where do you come in the order? Are you the youngest, the oldest, someone in the middle?
I'm the third born.
Okay. Okay.
My older brothers, I have two older brothers and a younger sister.
I see. Okay. And you obviously mentioned being close to them growing up. Did
Yeah.
What was your childhood like having three siblings, so four children at home?
So my older brothers, they, um, my older brothers are, we're all pretty close in age. My older brothers, there's one, uh, 2 years older than me, and then
It's
there's
about 31 now.
3 years older than me,
Right.
and my younger sister is just 1 year younger than me.
Okay, so very close in age. You're more the kind of friends age then, rather than kind of a big space and gap, wasn't it?
Yeah. So the closer in age we were, the more we had similar hobbies. Um, I grew up like I would rather, watch boys' shows or anime or throwing a baseball or practice kicking a football. Um, and then my cousins were also very close in age. They were also
Right.
my best friends.
So
Uh,
it's good that you had that kind of close knit family, though. I mean, a lot of people don't even have that. So it's kind of nice that you had that.
How
yeah.
how was your relationship with your parents, Anna?
My parents. So my my mom. She's been a constant in our life. She was always there. Uh, but our fathers, we have different fathers. Our My father, I've never met him. Uh, and my younger sister's father did most of the raising of us. But I would say he was mainly part time there. It
Okay.
was still some kind of figure of,
Was he someone you would call dad? Is that,
yeah.
yeah?
We all
So,
call him, he took us all under his wing. We all call him dad.
so it was again nice that you had a father figure in your life, as some people are not lucky to have any father figure. So, as, um, So I think some of us wish that we didn't have father figures in our life sometimes.
Yeah.
It's about trying to
Um,
find the balance somewhere in the
yeah,
middle,
yeah,
isn't it? Of both.
of
Oh
that
yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
It's very difficult. Um, and even though he's not my biological father, he walked me down the aisle. I call him dad.
Wow.
oh,
So there's clearly a close connection for you
yeah.
to want him to do that. How did he feel when you asked him to do so?
Oh, he was very, very happy.
Yeah.
Nice.
Um,
And
yeah.
the main reason that we're talking today is about um, having children. That's the main focus of our conversation today. And you said in our initial prior discussions that you knew that you didn't want to have kids from a young age. And I wanted to ask you where that came from.
So my mom had children very young. She was done having me and my siblings at 23 years old, and there's four of us all together. Um, and between uh, not being working, and my father not having stable work or earning enough, it was a struggle, income wise, for us to be uh, making the bills every month and to properly care for us all because there were four young kids all within the same age group.
Yeah, so a lot of
Uh,
kind of activities. Lots, yeah. I've got two young kids myself, and I can say it's not an unexpensive thing to do.
Quite the opposite, I would think.
Yeah, yeah, to have children. So I understand what you're saying. There's an economic factor to that. Is that something that is your biggest fear or
one of
consideration?
them.
Fear is the wrong word. Sorry.
Yeah, it's one of them. The mental toll as well was another big one. Is my mom was very inexperienced as, uh, I guess, as a caregiver. I mean, she was 23 when she was done having kids,
Yeah.
and she didn't have enough help raising children. And there are days where she's so frustrated, and we had way too much freedom.
Right. Okay.
Got to do what you wanted, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Do you worry that having experienced that yourself, having had times where maybe there wasn't a consistent father figure, or maybe your mum was unable to give you and your siblings the financial and emotional support, that's something that you would find difficult?
Yeah, between the emotional support and the financial support, uh, um, I would have difficulties coping with that because I already struggle day to day, because I still occasionally have anxiety and I struggle with depression. So
So
my bandwidth throughout the day is very limited.
that's a good way of putting it.
It
Bandwidth.
is.
I was just about to say exactly the same thing. There, that your capacity for for your bandwidth is a perfect way of saying that you kind of run out of bandwidth. Um, it is a consideration. I was thinking about when you said that you had anxiety from such a young age, how much, because I don't think of myself as an anxious person. However, having children has made me very anxious because I worry about them all the time. And I think as a parent, that is something that just kind of comes with part of the course. You do kind of just worry that they're going to be okay and that you're making a mistake all the time. And so is that something that you're anxious about? That kind of, am I going to do it right, or is it that kind of thing, or is it something else?
Uh, it's also a lot of the problems I experienced growing up. I may have to re-experience them over again.
Right.
Uh, as I don't know, like a lot of the problems I feel like I had growing up, I have to come to terms with, and I have to uh, overcome those so I don't take out frustrations on someone else that might be a blank slate.
Yeah. So yeah, you don't want to. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you don't want to be become a burden to your children. That's not what I was trying to say. What am I trying to say, Paul? You don't want to be. You don't want to have to put them in therapy after you're done being a parent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I worry about that every day. I'm not going to lie to you. I've explained to you before when we had a chance that I've got a 7-year-old and a 6-year-old. My 7-year-old's almost 8, so there's about a year and a half gap between the two of them. And every day I wonder, have I done that right? Have I said the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Every day I'm always reassessing and reevaluating. So believe me, I understand that fear of have I messed these children up to a point that they're gonna need help in the future.
To be honest, I imagine, not having kids myself at this point, but I imagine that every parent to some extent goes through something like that.
I think they must have that thought process at least once.
Yeah, at least once, and probably more. Maybe once a day, once an hour. I don't know.
I have it once. I have at least once an hour, but most people, I'm sure, it's less than that. Yeah.
And yeah, I have 2 other big reasons why I'm hesitant on having children.
And do you mind sharing those?
Yeah, I had some problems with my physical health.
Yep.
As I have hormonal issues that may make it difficult. And
you explained it was when we chatted. You explained it was polycystic ovaries. Is that correct? Is that the correct term? Am I using that correctly?
Yeah, polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Yeah. So is that the only kind of physical thing? I'm not saying only, because that's a massive kind of hurdle to overcome for anybody who's thinking about children. Is that the main kind of health thing that you're thinking about? Or?
The biggest one. I don't know if it's a symptom that goes along with it, but I had issues with blood pressure. Right. Luckily, I did recently see a doctor, and it's back to normal.
Well, that's good. Good.
That's
well done.
Good to hear. Going back to polycystic ovary syndrome, Anna, what sort of symptoms and issues do you have to deal with both now with the syndrome, and also would you have to deal with potentially if you were to fall pregnant?
Right now, I have had a lot of weight gain in the last several years. My hormones are very very abnormal. Like there's high levels of testosterone, abnormal levels of estrogen versus progesterone. And there's certain levels you need to be in order to ovulate.
Yeah. Have they said that there's anything they can do to help you with that? Is there any kind of medication or regime they can give you to help with the hormone levels? Is there something that can be done about that?
There are, but they first want to make sure you can have this happen on your own. So they want you to try and lose weight. Losing weight usually improves symptoms.
Okay.
Let's see. So if I can lose weight, and if my symptoms improve, I may not need these hormonal pills.
Okay.
Sometimes fertility is restored by losing weight.
Okay.
Now, the massive weight gain was caused by me having insulin resistance.
Right.
Okay.
So another hormone issue has caused your hormone issues, which has caused.
I was placed on metformin.
Yeah.
Usually a diabetic drug, but it's also used for polycystic ovarian syndrome to help make you utilize insulin more effectively.
Yeah, I have a unique insight on this. It's not the first time I've heard it, and I did say to you before that my sister has polycystic ovaries and is on metformin. She has diabetes as well, and I'm sure she'll be fine. She tells everybody here all the time, so she'll be fine me talking about this. So it's not a new concept to me that this is something that happens to people, and I think people who are listening to this might be like, "Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing," whereas I feel like I've lived this with my sister, and now I'm hearing it from you again. It kind of feels very familiar, very uh, I don't want to say tragic. It's like not a tragedy, but that the same cycle happens where something's blamed on, say it's something like weight, but then the cause of that, it's almost like the chicken and the egg situation. Like, how can I lose weight if I've got a hormone imbalance, and how can my hormone imbalance sort itself if I can't lose weight? So you're stuck then not being able to do either of the two because it's like a difficulty. One causes the other symptom. I assume, and I'm making this assumption, and I'm going to ask you now, but is that something that has preyed on your mind, that you might never get out of this cycle, or is that something that weighs on you?
I actually have hope, because like last Friday, I visited the doctor, and I got on the scale, and apparently I have lost 15 pounds recently.
Wow, well done.
Congratulations.
Yeah, good for you. I'm sure most people, especially during COVID, have gone completely the opposite. I know, speaking for myself, I've probably put on that plus since we've been locked down. So that's the other thing. We were talking about this, Paul, in a discussion we had. But do you think COVID, now that it is a thing, and doesn't seem to be looking to go away anytime soon, is that something that you is on your consideration list as well, to things that wouldn't want to bring a child into this time period, or would you like to wait and see what happens, or is that something you're considering?
I want to wait until there's a vaccine.
I assumed that might be your response, but I didn't want to make assumptions for you. But yeah, we're living in a weird time, and I mean, obviously there are many, what I've read in the papers have been COVID babies, the result of people being in the house for the last 8 months, or the best part of 8 months. So that inevitable boredom in the house has led to much more childbirths, and or them coming on the way anyway. So that is something you're conscious of and trying to kind of plan around. Would that be correct?
Yeah. I don't think it was mentioned, but polycystic ovarian syndrome is the one of the biggest reasons for female infertility. I don't think that was mentioned, but that's why it's a concern of mine.
Of course, yeah. So
for Anna,
Paul, sorry.
It's okay. For anyone maybe going through something similar, or who knows of someone who is, do you mind sharing the weight gain which you've experienced as a result of medication?
So the medication didn't have me gain weight. It actually helped me lose weight. But without the medication, that's the hormone imbalance and the insulin resistance is when I gained the weight. I within let's see, it was I struggled with appetite, and I don't know, it was unusual. It was different from what I had been used to. And I remember going from or I'd gained maybe about 60 pounds in like 2 years or so. It may not have been as dramatic as some stories I've heard, but it was still pretty dramatic for me.
Yeah. And so again, you were mentioning that you have obviously other kind of concerns with anxiety, and did you say mild depression? I don't want to put words in your mouth again. Was that what you said, mild depression?
Yeah, mild depression now.
Yeah. So obviously the weight gain being unexpected, would that have kind of affected your mental state as well? I mean, it seems almost obvious that it would, but I don't want to again assume that for you. Is that something that caused you a little bit of distress?
It has, yeah. Where I'm at has been kind of stagnant for about, I would say, about 8 years. The big changes happened about 8 years ago, and I kind of let myself go. And in the last several years, I did some changes to try and keep me at bay, kind of where I'm at. And now in I guess when COVID started, I've been making even more changes to try and lose that little bit of extra weight.
What sort of changes have you made?
So I try to. My diet is similar to a diabetic diet, even though I don't have diabetes.
Sure.
And I'll make sure I go out and walk every day. The city I live in has a lot of hills. So I don't need to use a gym membership. I'm gonna avoid gyms. They're open over here.
Well, they've opened up recently here, and it's a good excuse for me not to go, to be honest.
I haven't been back either. I must be honest. I haven't been back.
There is a third reason why I wouldn't want children right now, and it's the political situation right now.
You mean in America at the moment? Yeah. We are affected by America's political kind of stuff in a different way, obviously, because it's not our landscape. But we have our own issues over here with everybody's got issues at the moment with COVID, and nobody agrees on anything. So that's a bit of a problem.
Summarizing it's the political landscape over here, and it's pretty scary.
Right. So, and what are you hoping for to change in that regards? Without being too deep into politics,
I'd rather not say.
That's
fair enough. That's okay.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping you weren't gonna, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to have that opportunity.
Anna, you mentioned previously that you knew you didn't want kids from a young age, and you met your husband a few years ago. Was he aware of that straight away?
He was aware of it. I've always made it known that I didn't want children. I would make jokes about and giving them strange names, but I wasn't serious about really calling them weird names.
What sort of names?
Yeah, what were your weird names?
I don't know if this is allowed, but weird names like crotch goblins or
maybe not a good idea.
No, but nothing wrong with the best sense of humor.
And is that still the same to this day? Do you feel the same way? Does your husband feel the same way?
I'm in a middle ground now. My husband just recently in the last 2 years just wants children now.
Okay.
He has changed his mind. So I've also been slowly changing my mind as well.
Okay.
What's
been causing that change for you?
We weren't married yet when he had changed his mind.
Right.
And I love my husband, and I realized that there's no middle ground when you want children or you don't want children. Adopting's an option, but that's still having a child around.
Sure. And it's more the actual having the child that was the sort of issue for you rather than the process of having your own. Is that right to say?
That is correct to say.
Okay.
There's also a giant financial burden of adopting in the United States.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about the process that your husband went through to go from not wanting kids to wanting kids? Was that a quick process? Did something set it off?
I'm not entirely sure the process that was through his head. But it did happen after a vacation we had. There was a vacation his family had in Florida. We were on a beach There was a house rented. His entire immediate family was there. His brother recently had a child, and it was of toddler age. The entire family was taking care of this toddler. And when he came back from the vacation, he wanted a child. I felt this was unusual because the entire family was taking care of this child, and normally a day-to-day life is not going to be like that.
Yeah, it's quite idyllic to be by the beach in a beach house with all your family, looking after one single child. Yeah, and I understand your reservations of how that might change if you didn't have that whole support network around you. Do you have a support network that you could lean on a little bit? I mean, obviously, bringing up a child it's a responsibility of the parents mostly, but is there somebody that you could lean on? Obviously, you said your mum has been a massive constant in your life. Would she be on hand, or any of the family? No, right, okay.
No.
She openly said that herself, has she?
I wouldn't trust the house that she's in. It needs to be child friendly.
Right. Okay.
Anna, can you?
Yes. Paul.
Anna, can you talk about how it felt when you found out that your husband had a change of heart, if that's the right expression? Was it a sort of gradual thing? Did you see it coming during the holiday or during the vacation or not?
It was a sudden change. Like, it was so sudden a question. It was a sudden question. Maybe a few weeks after the vacation. And I felt maybe my heart break.
Oh, so it was as dramatic as that. I take it's because you felt like you were on the same page for, was it up to 5 or 6 years? You thought that was just the decision had been made. There would be no children in your future. Is that fair to say? Or
yes.
So with his kind of turnaround in his thought process, have you made some kind of compromises, obviously, in the way you're thinking now? Is what's changed for you in that respect?
In my mind, I figured, there's no middle ground in this. You have it, you have one, or you don't. And I figured, how much do I love him? Do I want to spend the rest of my life with him? And how much am I going to sacrifice of myself to stay with him? And I figured, if he's willing to do certain things for me, I'm willing to do this for him.
Okay.
Was that an easy decision for you to come to, or did that take some soul searching?
Oh, that was not easy to come to.
It doesn't sound like it would be. No.
Can you talk us through that process of finding out that your husband now wants to have kids, which goes against how you felt at the time to where you are now?
Yeah, so it hurt a lot when I first found out, but I realized it would hurt more to be alone because I've never found someone so wonderful. I always struggled meeting people and talking to people, and I seem to attract people that can easily manipulate me.
Okay.
Or
we all have that ability.
Malicious intent.
Oh, okay, I see.
But I have found this with him.
How did you meet your husband, Anna?
I met him through in a community college. We had mutual interest. It was through a club.
Okay.
Often the best way for relationships to start with mutual interest. I met my wife in musical theatre. I know you can imagine me on the stage, can't you? And that was the start of our story. So it's often the case that you kind of meet somebody when you're not expecting to, or just when you're when you're more relaxed, even I think that might be the case where you're not actually trying too hard to be someone you're not, and you meet somebody who's in the same kind of position because you're part of the same group or club, and you get to know each other in a more natural way rather than dating. I'm the same. I want to kind of relate with you that I'm not the kind of person that would be able to go out to a pub or a club and meet somebody and ultimately start a story in that way. I don't think that would work for me. And every kind of start of a story for me would be in the way you've just described it, like shared interests. And I think that's, for me anyway, it's relatable. I don't know anyone listening to this whether or not it's different for their situation, but for me that's very relatable. What about you, Paul? What do you think?
I would agree in that I met my partner in the same workplace, and I think this is definitely a conversation for a future season where we look at how people met their partners or dating, and yeah, but I do think common ground, like you say, is something that brings you together, and I can relate to what you're saying in the sense that you would worry about not finding someone in the future who would have common ground to share with, and you would have a strong relationship. So it sounds like whilst it was a difficult decision to make and it took a lot of soul searching, you eventually decided that you want to stay in your relationship enough that you're willing to, if the right word is compromise, to compromise.
Yeah. So if I was willing to give up something that I've always wanted to have, being child free, then he may have to do certain things as well. So I asked him.
Sorry, can't go on. What would those things be?
I asked him to wait some time. So it can't be right now.
Right.
And we were definitely not in a position to.
Do you have a time scale in mind?
A time scale would be when I complete a certain. Well, I guess it would be when I complete the following things. I would say that I'm coming up with.
Okay, go on then.
So I would have to fix. I can't say fix my health because there's no cure for polycystic ovarian syndrome. But I would have to get myself to a healthier standpoint. Get myself to a healthier weight, like probably maybe like 40% less weight. Easier. Yeah, get my blood pressure easier. Quit smoking. That doesn't have to do with PCOS, but that's something I need to do.
Is that something you would say is a preferred thing rather than a required thing?
That's, for me, it's required. I wouldn't want to bring someone in the world that would have a greater risk of birth defects.
Okay. A consideration, and that's exactly what we're trying to get to the point here, is just what things are on the list that you would need to, that you're considering that are part of your decision-making process. And it's interesting to hear that smoking obviously for you is on that list. And sorry, I interrupted you. What were the other things?
So I have to get healthier. We would want to own a home, but it'd be much less than the maximum amount of we can afford. So it gives a cushion room in case one of us lost our jobs.
Understood,
yeah. More so have that more financial security, more or less, and have the space to raise them, because we currently can't do that with where we're living.
Sure. Where are you living just
logistics,
now? If paint a picture just now of where you're living, please.
So we're living in a half a duplex, but yeah, it's in the East Coast, but it's pretty old. It considering the standards for the United States, it's over 120-year-old home.
Okay.
Where the average home is probably maybe 50 years or less. And it's 1 bedroom, and it's 530 square feet. I would say I looked it up. It would be about 49.5 square meters.
So not ideal for raising a child.
Yeah.
So it's a 1 bedroom property. Is that what you would describe it as?
Yes.
Yeah. So personally, for me, I lived in a 1 bedroom. We would call that a 1 bedroom flat, or duplex isn't a word we use much around here, is it, Paul?
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, 1 bedroom flat. When I met my wife now, I was living in a 1 bedroom flat, and I had the exact same considerations as you're taking on board now, which is, do we have the space for a child? Do we have the money to buy a new property? These kind of things. And I think they're kind of common, aren't they? The financial security, the logistical, where do you put the child in your property, that kind of thing. I know that's very kind of scientific way to put it, but
it's true.
It's not an object.
It moves.
It does move. So where are we going to put that? And these were all thought processes that I had as well. And I'm sure, Paul, there would be thought processes that you're going to have in the future. Are you looking as well? Do you want to share that?
100%. Yeah. Part of the reason I'm so keen to have this conversation as part of this season of the podcast is because at this point in my life, I'm trying to weigh up whether that's a road I want to go down. Do I want to have children, or do I want to remain child free? And it's a really tough one. I was going to ask Anna, because you did mention a number of compromises, maybe being the wrong words, but changes. You mentioned your weight, you mentioned smoky, you mentioned finances, and I was wondering whether it's hard to accept these and to motivate yourself to carry through these changes when initially you didn't want to have children at all.
I know some of these I were going to do anyway, but I would have started them earlier if I wanted children, or I may not have done them at all, like smoking.
Okay.
Now I'm finding it's very hard to quit. I don't know if it's just me being addicted. I'm not a pack of smoker. Yeah, I don't smoke a pack a day, but it's still very difficult.
What situations do you find yourself smoking in? Is it kind of work visit, or social, or boredom, or like you say, you don't know if it's just that you've got an addiction to smoking? Is there particular times of the day that you can identify?
Yeah, I tend to smoke as soon as I wake up, as soon as or after I eat. If I've completed a very difficult process or a project, or
like a reward almost.
It's like a reward system, or I do it to motivate myself to start something.
Right.
Okay.
I use coffee in the same way. What you just described is my exact same pattern for coffee. I'm going to have one before I do this task. I'll have one afterwards to reward myself. It's a very, very similar pattern for me. So I use coffee in a similar way.
And it's understandable, because these things are things that typically, to some extent, you enjoy. So they are motivating factors to get you through something else. And it's interesting you mentioned
modify your brain chemistry as well in a certain way. So yeah,
100%. Anna, I want to ask you a question that might be difficult to answer just now, but something that I'm wondering if it's at the back of your mind and you'd be wondering if you'd be able to share. Do you worry about possibly regretting having a child if and when it was to happen?
Yes. It's very taboo for women to talk about regretting children, but a lot of people regret children.
They do.
I've had co-workers tell me, be glad that you don't have children. Or you're lucky you don't have children, or just, stay child free. And I never questioned it, but They're also young, and they think they weren't ready. Um,
Yeah. So you think for you that's not the same consideration because obviously you're what 29 now.
mhm.
I think I became a father about 29, 30. So um, I would say that for me was the right time for me, but it changes. It's different for everybody, isn't it? Obviously, it's not a constant in anyone's decision making process. But
When
if
is
you
the
are
right
used,
time?
exactly, that's the exact question. When is the right time? And that's different for every person on the planet. For you, you seem to have come to this decision kind of organically because you're now in a committed relationship. Your partner's looking for the next stage in his life with you, and you don't want to miss out on that kind of package deal almost. For lack of a better term, I don't have a better term for it, but and I think that anybody who's thinking about having children is gonna, because they don't have that child in their life yet, is gonna have that worry about regret and
That's where
will it
I
change
am.
will
That's
it
part
change
of
my
it.
life so
Yeah.
dramatically? Yeah.
That's where I am right now. I have that in my head. Do I want to go through with this? Because it completely changes your life. And Anna, like you say, sometimes you have co-workers who'll make comments along the lines of, oh yeah, I remember back to when I didn't have kids, and they talk about the change in their lifestyle. I wonder how that makes you feel when people make comments like that when you're in the situation you're in just now.
I also I wonder because their lives and their personalities are very different from mine. So I wasn't having as I'm not having as much fun as they did.
Sure. Do you mean fun
Um,
as in
like
Going to bars, and is that what you're
like
yeah?
going
thinking?
to bars or even having the money to vacation.
Right.
Okay. Does that
um,
make it easier to accept, perhaps, that you
it
haven't
might
had that lifestyle before?
it might be easier to accept. Um,
You don't know what you're
but
missing almost.
um,
It's yeah, you're not going to be, it's not like you're not changing that side of your lifestyle because you don't do that anyway.
but at the same time, uh, I don't know. I've never just dedicated most of myself to someone else beyond my husband. And even I don't like to identify my identity as my husband.
Sure.
No, nobody wants to identify themselves as their partner. Like nobody, anyone who is an independent person does not want to be identified by their partner completely. They don't want to be completely lost to that.
It feels like we all have the common ground that we've all grown up in different settings, but we've all grown up with our own share of issues, if that's the right word, anxieties, worries, and sometimes feelings of not fitting in at different points in our life. And a question for you, Ryan, because I know you've been through the process.
Of course,
You're,
yeah.
you're ahead of where Anna and I are just now. But
Yeah.
was that something that played on your mind when you committed to having children with your wife? Did you worry about your own mental health and potentially the impact on them?
I constantly worry about my mental health, Paul. Yeah, for me, it was a different situation, I think, because I had mentioned this to you both before, that growing up, I always thought I'd be a good father. I was a carer from a young age. My family were a care family, so we had children coming in and out of our house, a bit like a foster situation, respite situation. So I always thought I had the skills to be a good father, but did I necessarily want to be a father? Those were my concerns, and I thought I would
Can
always go into
totally
some,
relate.
yeah. So I thought I would go into something like social work, be like director of social work, and focus on a career helping other people, or being that kind of cool uncle to my sister's kids. My sister doesn't have kids, but if I always assumed that she would have kids, and I would be her cool uncle, the cool uncle that would take the kids out, lead them astray, feed them full of chocolate, come back home and be like, "There you go, there's your kids. See you later, bye." So I always kind of, that's how I envisioned my life until I met my wife, and I don't want to like be cliche and say it was like a switch flicked in my head, but there was a point where I was kind of that 28, 29 age group, and I was like, I think I want to settle down now. Like, I was never like a raging party goer or any of that. I was never that. In fact, I was always more sensible. I ran a karaoke company for quite a while, going out to bars so that I could join in with the fun, but not actually be part of the nonsense. So I would basically essentially get paid to have fun with my friends who were getting drunk.
Fun from a distance, can we call it that? That could be a company name.
Exactly that, yeah.
I can see that on the side of a van.
Fun from a distance. So my social situation was a bit more like that, whereas I was like, I can capitalize on my friends' desire to be going out. I will provide the entertainment for them. So I get to be part of it, but I don't necessarily need to become drunk or messy in that situation. So for me, that worked better because I'm not a big drinker. Special occasions, that kind of thing, but nothing, almost at all. So for me, making that decision, I made that first decision was a big one for me because I literally went home to my dad and went, I think I've met the woman I'm going to marry today. And he was like, what? Because that was not my, he was like, are you okay? Have you had like news? Are you dying? Is there something? Like, he honestly thought it was that dramatic a change in the way I lived my life. I was very much a bachelor. So my dad was like, what? He just couldn't, you could see the cogs in his head and he almost like, so I kind of laid that on him and he was like, really? Like, she must, wow. So, and then obviously I introduced my dad to my now wife and the family, and it all moved very quickly because I was in that place and for whatever reason, she was ready in that place. So we kind of met at a point. If we had met a few years earlier, the relationship would have happened and crumbled and disintegrated and it would never have got to where we are now. But because we were both on the same page at the same time, in the same kind of, I mean, she's a few years younger than me, but just because we met at the right time, again, really cliche, and I'm sorry, but because of that, we ended up having our first child really, really quickly. And then that set into motion all the logistical stuff had to happen because we're like, oh, we need a house because we've got a baby on the way and we need this, we need to sell the flat, we need help, kind of the mad rush to get everything ready in time for this child coming along. And I can tell you now, Anna and Paul, as soon as that little thing comes out and you're like, something changes in you. Like, for me, being that guy who's like, I'm just going to be the uncle, to having this little boy who's my first child in my hands, I was like, oh my God, life has changed forever. And something changed in me. I've never felt, again, this is really cliche and I hate it myself for saying this, but
you don't, you love the cliche. You love it.
I don't know. I am a total cliche. But I just got to that point where I was holding this child and I was like, oh my God. Oh my goodness, this is what it is. This is why I'm on this planet, to have this child in my hand.
As far as that, wow.
As profound as that, yeah. I was holding this little bundle of skin and bones in my hands, and I was like, no way, this is it. This is why I'm here. I looked at my wife, who had a really rough pregnancy and a really rough birth. She was in labor for 3 days. So
oh my goodness.
I didn't sleep for 3 days, so I was a little bit
tired.
Tired is not the word, Paul. I was completely delirious by that point. And but all that pales into insignificance because she's lying in that bed having to go through giving birth for 72 hours. So I'm like, it doesn't matter how I feel. This woman's a hero, like, she's like, how selfish of me is it to be like, I am so tired.
How dare I be tired?
72 hours of awakeness, where she's been awake 72 hours and she's trying to birth this life form out of her body. So yeah, it would have been a little bit inconsiderate of me to be Like, I'm so tired. Can you think of me for a minute? Honestly. But seeing the hardship that she went through that birth, I know the second birth was not like that. It was really quick.
Okay.
So
Thank goodness.
but going through that the first time, I could not have loved my wife more. I was just like, I can't believe you went through this for us. Like there was a bonding thing because I was there for the whole time. I saw the whole thing. There was a moment where things got a little bit messy where I thought I might never see my wife again because let's say 3 days is a long time. So there was a moment of touch and go where she was maybe going to need to go into surgery and there was complications and things. So I was just like, oh no, like how will I live as a single dad with this little bunk? Because like, honestly, at one point, maybe because I was so tired, I might have been over dramatic about it, but I was just like, oh my God, if she dies here and now, what do I do? Like, I'm not equipped on my own. Like, we're a team. If she's not here, what happens now? So that's why when I hear your story, Anna, and I feel like because you've got that bond with your partner, a lot of that part of being a team and doing things together and living that life together might be strengthened rather than affected in a detrimental way because you're going through it all together and you're all doing it together. Do you know what I mean? I know I shared a lot there. I'm really sorry.
Thank you, though. No, thank you so much. But yeah, I wanted to ask you, Anna, when you hear all that, what's going through your head?
Wow.
Sorry.
Sometimes, like, I feel like, occasionally I sometimes feel like, oh, I might be alone. It's, but I also wouldn't want to leave him alone if something were to happen. But yeah, almost everything we do, we're a team. It's never I or just him in anything we do. I've never really thought that way ever in our relationship. So yeah, that would make it stronger. I do have struggle with saying I need help with this. And that was something I wanted to work on as well before having children, because I will need to say that more instead of shouldering more of the responsibilities on my own, especially with uneven housework that plagues a lot of women.
Well, I'm in a different boat because I'm the stay-at-home parent and my wife goes to work. So I actually am the main caregiver in our house, which is not I'm not cliche, Paul. Take it back. Modern male right here.
Yeah, it's been amazing, and to be honest, the whole reason that Ryan and I wanted to start this podcast is to share experiences like this and to hear not only from people like you, Anna, but also from each other and from others who have joined us in the past and will join us in the future, to really bring this home and to share these experiences. And I've got to say, over the past however long this has been, I've learned so much about both of you, but I think about myself as well, and I hope you listening as well have maybe had some thoughts as well, and maybe you can relate to some of the experiences you've heard on the show today. A general statement.
I wanted to say that a lot of the stuff I may have said might go out the door with this upcoming election in the United States. Because my husband and I have been contemplating actually trying to seek going into another country.
Wow, okay.
Oh, as big as that, wow.
Where are you thinking of going?
Scotland is nice.
Yeah.
I've got a spare room just through the wall.
It is cold. I'll share that with you.
I can tolerate the cold pretty good, actually. But it's pretty I'm looking at, it's difficult to immigrate, it looks like. If you're not extremely skilled anywhere. And not enough information online about remote workers who are employed in the U.S.
Yeah,
not something I have a lot of kind of understanding of, but yeah, I can imagine. I empathize. It must be a tough situation. But even if what you've said, maybe won't ring true in the future. It will be a snapshot. What we've just recorded and are still recording will be a snapshot of your life at this point, which I'm sure someone somewhere in the world will be able to relate to. So it's been,
I think it's been very interesting, hasn't it, Paul? That we've
very much so.
A lot of the things you said has echoed thought processes that we've had, so it's
Both
bound to echo with and resonate with other people.
Exactly.
So you listening to this would be able to relate to that, and that's what we're hoping. And it's just nice to meet people and see what their insight is on things that seem commonplace. Like,
yeah. You see kids everywhere, don't you?
Yeah, they seem to happen just generally. So
yeah.
It's kind of nice to get an insight on something that seems so obvious, but nobody seems to really pin down a lot of these thought processes. I mean, there's lots of books on it, let's face it. But,
there's books on a lot of things.
Nobody's written the book on having children.
We're trying to do it, but in audio format.
We're going to do it in an audio format, exactly. But it is very interesting, and this has almost been like a social piece on how people, even with thousands of miles between them, have very similar considerations, very similar thought processes, and how we're all not that much different. Like,
no, we're not. I think that's kind of the
together.
Point. It kind of,
is it just me?
Is it just me? Yeah, but apparently not. I want to say a massive thank you for joining us. It's been great to have your experiences. Hey, it's Paul. Thank you so much for checking out Life Is It Just Me? Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube for the video version. Check out our website for the latest updates, lifeisitjust.me. See you soon.